Okay, thank you. Right, I'll introduce myself. I'm Rod McGovern. My job is that I'm a consultant that helps local landowners put in wind turbines. So I have background in this subject. I've listened to what we've just been hearing. Some of it I agree with, but a lot of it you'll understand I don't. And so I thought that I would just put the other side to this argument. I do, in fact, live quite close to the Hill of Fare, one of the closest. And so I've got a valid opinion as to whether it's a good idea or not. But I think the first thing I would like to pick up on is that this is Aberdeen climate action. If we're going to have any chance of reducing the impact on the climate, then we need to have a different means of producing energy. So you can't have one without the other. You've got to have turbines. You've got to have them somewhere. So in the next few minutes, I'll just go through what my thoughts are about the Hill of Fare. I think the first thing, I agree that the Scottish government has accepted that it's that we need to have more renewable energy generated onshore. And when I last heard, they said they want to double the amount they have at the moment generated onshore. I work mostly in North Aberdeenshire. They've been quite successful in getting turbines installed on farms and around the place. If you go up the top of Hill of Fare or any other hill, you can look out and see a lot of turbines. Seeing turbines, in my view, even as a hill walker, isn't too much of a problem. I quite like seeing them. I don't think they impact the landscape very much. But they do signal that we are moving towards generating power in ways other than fossil fuels. So to see a lot of turbines means we're generating a lot of power. I will quite like the look from my window up onto the Hill of Fare and seeing power being generated from a new renewable resource, and hopefully coming to be to avoid having to buy it from elsewhere. So Aberdeenshire has been quite successful. It's got a lot of turbines, but it has been hampered by effectively public opinion. From quite a long time ago, it was decided that Aberdeenshire didn't want any turbines which had a tip height higher than 80 meters. And so most of the turbines you see will be 80 meters. There's a few now which are a bit bigger. And that was done purely for landscape reasons. We've also got turbines which had to be hidden effectively behind hills, so they couldn't be seen. And that sort of reduced their efficiency and were a bit of a waste of time. So there's got to be a balance between siting turbines in a place which is reasonably efficient and not impacting the landscape too much. But again, you've got to have some impact, otherwise what's the point of trying to use turbines to generate power? So the other issue is that in Aberdeenshire, most of the good sites now have turbines on them. There's one or two remaining ones. Hill of Fare is probably the best example of a site which is ripe for development. It's elevated, it's exposed to the wind, it's relatively flat, it's accessible, it's near the grid, it's a prime site, and I'm sure other people would have wanted to put turbines on it before now if they'd owned the land effectively, but they didn't. So I'm not surprised that there's a development planned up there. I was a bit surprised when they suggested 200-meter turbines. They're awfully big. That would be, well, considerably larger than anything else in Aberdeenshire or indeed in the rest of the UK. And I'm not surprised they've scaled it back a bit down to 200 meters, because 250-meter turbines don't exist at the moment, and you can't apply for planning for something that doesn't exist. So 200-meter turbines still very large, but they have to be large if they're going to be efficient. They've got to be big rotors. They've got to be well elevated to get the high wind speeds at height. And so all the turbines in Aberdeenshire are relatively inefficient. and they should have allowed bigger turbines right from the start. The turbines which are planned for Hill of Fare, yes, are big. At 200 meters, they're bigger than 80 meters, but each of them will generate the same as 10 of the 80-meter turbines. So 16 turbines on top of Hill of Fare will generate the same as 160 80-meter turbines. So big is beautiful as far as wind production is concerned. But they're getting a lot of objection. I've been told I'm the only one in the area who supports them, which I don't think is quite true, but it's not far from the case, especially if you look at the statistics we've just been presented with. I think they're slightly biased because from what I heard, only about 20% of the population actually submitted a survey form. So if they're saying 70% are objecting, that's 70% of 20%, which means a lot of people are either indifferent or not objecting in any strong way. So I think if everyone was aware of the situation, whilst the benefits aren't massive, there are benefits to the community to the tune of about £1 million a year. It's difficult to think of another source of £1 million to the local community. So it's better than nothing. And I agree, it should be much more. And in addition, there will be some payments to the local residents for reducing their energy costs. So if the people who are feeling the crisis, financial crisis at the moment, were asked whether they would like their bills reduced in exchange for turbines on the hill, I suspect that landscape isn't their biggest priority. And I think a lot of people are actually not as against as has been reported. But the other point I would make is that if you were to ignore any impact on the climate, then you might think that it's better to object to the moment, because in my experience, the main driver is fear of the unknown. No one's seen 200-meter turbines anywhere. They don't know what the view is going to look like. They don't know what the impact on them is going to be, and they don't know what the long-term effect on the value of their house is going to be. So they think, well, let's object now because it may be too late. I've had other situations like that. When the first turbines were going up in Aberdeenshire, I was involved in a development, much smaller development, but there was a lot of disquiet, and the community got together. There was a petition of 300 signatures, and they were all really against. We had a meeting, and people were very unhappy. There was a lady in tears because of the effect the turbines would have on the economics of her horse riding business, and she really didn't want it to go ahead. For whatever reason, the council decided it should go ahead. They saw that they wanted renewable energy produced. It went ahead, and the objectors now regret objecting. The lady who with the horses rides through between the turbines. The horses aren't scared of the turbines. She's able to ride off the road and is delighted. So it may not be as bad as many of the objectors around Hill of Fare are thinking it's going to be. What I am well aware of is that on the one hand, the Scottish government wants more power, but they pay bodies to assess each of these applications. And if there was a valid reason for not having it there, then it wouldn't be approved. So I'm not sure of the value of spending time objecting to the application. My view is that it would be better to get a better deal from the developers, and the sort of benefits that I think should be given a higher priority is, yes, certainly the value to the community, making sure that the energy which is produced is actually directed to the houses in the area and the businesses in the area. But there's also more bodies which will benefit from the turbines being there. The council will get a lot of money from rates, and that will benefit everyone in the area, covering the costs of other things that the council does. Yeah, and the companies which will be involved in building it will also benefit. So I think the focus should be more on improving the deal. But the bottom line is that really the chance of it being turned down is very low. The Scottish government has got to have developments like this, otherwise they're not going to generate the power that they think they need. And yeah, I don't accept the argument that we're already well on the way. I think the amount of power that we're going to need is going to grow massively when we stop using fossil fuels. So I think for the benefit of the climate, it would be better to let this one go ahead.
Thank you.